Good afternoon, Philippe, Renata, Iñaki. Thank you very much for joining us, for being here with us. In fact, today we will start this I Imagine Architectural Design conversation series. So it's a great pleasure having you with us. The title of the conversation tonight will be a conversation on thermodynamics, architecture, and beauty. So the first idea I would like to talk about is, in fact, comes directly from one of your texts, thermodynamic beauty, in where you, in some way, you talk about the need of integration of architecture, landscape, and environment. So I would like to more or less advance these ideas that will be presented during tonight.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I mean, it's a pleasure to be here with Philippe, with you, Renata, etc. And I think that reintroducing the idea of beauty is not something new. It's very old. It's a very old issue. No, I think that, to pronounce this name, big name, no, beauty in relationship with topics that usually are not related with, like, let's say, formulas or kind of scientific knowledges, etc., is something that in a way is required by circumstances. No? I mean, we live in a world that we cannot escape to this kind of temptation of objectivation of every single thing. So as architects, we have to be trained to be able to deal at the same time with very subjective ideas as every aesthetic idea, and also with some let's say objective facts, and try to establish a kind of new ways to approach that are completely different to those of engineers and those of intuition. In between these two worlds, I think is the future of our architecture, I would say.
I think I agree completely that beauty is very important word, and it's very important in the discipline of architecture. So I think we are an important part to define this beauty nowadays, and in this relation between thermodynamics, landscape, and architecture, what this mixture means, and what we can call beauty nowadays. Because I think right now it's kind of disorganized, all this subject. So we have to revise and have a look again and try to find answer to it as an architect.
Well, where we meet, you as practitioners and theoreticians, me as a historian who does not build, is that we're interested in using concepts and terms in order to break through this current separation of labor and separation of thinking. I think that we're in a phase since a while already where most phenomena, most issues, most practices are separated and kept apart, and what is asked for is to be highly specialized in one field, but this makes it on one hand easy to control these fields for others because you divide and you rule, and the role of the architects but also the historians is sort of marginalized because you're responsible for your field. If you're a historian, please take care of the past but not of the now, and if you're an architect, please build but don't think or talk. And I think that's where point where we meet, where we see the power of these concepts is something which enables to reshape the way we use language, and by that also reshape practice. Beauty is, I think, a particularly well-suited topic or concept or term because it has been almost a taboo for a couple of decades, and it still has some kind of provocation, although it was used in antiquity and classicism. But this is far away, and in some sense it has nothing to do with what's happening. So we accept that history is sort of discontinuous, but we don't accept that the practice is discontinuous.
And the other topic or the other subject that I'm sure that we will introduce during this conversation tonight is, for example, is related to the use of image in your you have been written some texts, some articles related to this, the importance of the use of image, not only as a tool of representation, but also as a way to think about the practice.
Yeah, image in the field of art history or visual culture is quite traditional. There's almost 2 decades of image studies of what we call iconic turn. But one of the fields or one of the practices where the image still is provocative and still produces strange kind of echo is architecture. Perhaps because many architects feel or fear that they could be put too close to art, or that their practice could become something associated with flatness without space or whatever. So this term, which is now established in the theory and history of art and visual culture, has almost, I would say, done its job there, can be applied with new energy and new precision in the realm of architecture. And I think it can still do a lot, just by, again, a little bit like beauty, make architects and theoreticians think differently about the way they design, the way they produce, the way they interact with other spheres. So the image is, I would say at the moment, still vivid, elastic, enough term that one can apply, which is not crystallized, fossilized like other terms like, for instance, modernism, postmodernism, which you cannot use anymore. So all these terms, they have their lifespan, and I don't think that one should negate that. They're also part of a historical change, but image is, I would say, still at the right place.
Yeah, but I agree with you, it's very important, but I think we don't have yet the answer what is the image. If we talk about thermodynamics, for us it's something that still doesn't have like the answer in the image. So we have maybe the images were too much exposed, too much criticized. So we are trying to find what the new image or new image of thermodynamic should be. So somehow you have to forget about what it was to start to think in a very different way. And coming also, it's not only the image about what the building is, but what we are working on, also about the graphics when we talk about architecture. That the graphics, how you can explain the phenomena that are not material, like air, like heat, etc. So start to exist like kind of graphic language that start to tell the story. But there is not still the answer. It's still like in between, I would say.
Well, this is exactly how we use what you predict. Another idea of that this is still a lot of room to work with images in the scene of architecture, and for us is crucial. I mean, we are not interested in sustainability as if we were engineers. So we are interested in exploring what images can we produce that can in a way attract people. I mean, I think there is a question of communication that comes from postmodernism, so to say, and there is also a question of rigor. And another, let's say, purely aesthetic approach. I mean, we as architects are interested in new things, in originality. I think it's the artistic vein forces you to look for new things, and this exploration in the terrain of images is really productive for us. And in fact, I think that, for example, in academia with the students, all the processes we make with them, they suffer the first, let's say, months, because it's a very kind of blind research without finding any kind of really, let's say, image or a formal approach. But in a moment, boom, it explodes and the images are produced, and then they understand everything. I mean, they can establish a loop, go back to the beginning and reconstruct the whole process and go push it forward. And I think that this is the key point. You know? So for us, it's not the immediate topic we have to deal with, but it's something that is at the end, or at least in the middle of the process, and it establishes like two ways, no? From the beginning to this moment that you produce an image, and then another to the, let's say, the real project. No? I think it's very. I mean, it's interesting the way historians or artists can use and manipulate this idea of images.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as something which is there when there is no concept yet or no more. When language alone doesn't work, then images can function very well. I think that a part of the image which is associated with the iconic architecture, this is starting to fade now. I think the heyday of the signature architecture, where you can recognize the image, the style, which is reproducible, which sort of sticks into your memory, that's fading, that is losing its power. But the concept of image as such has still a lot of vigor, because it is very elastic, and it's important to conceive images not merely as a reproduction of something which is already there, but as Jean-Paul Sartre says, as an act, something which acts, or as Henri Bergson says, something which is dynamic, which constantly changes.
So it provokes other things.
Yeah, so the image is sort of something which is constantly produced and produces other images. So I vote or opt for a very, very, very broad concept of image, which then becomes a meeting ground where we can talk to each other, even trying to define what do we mean by image, and this already is a part of exchange.